let me say on that.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, let me say on that. Let me say on that because he.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Targeting Podcast. Boys,
Yes, sir.
how are we doing this week?
Doing wonderful. I'm at the Super Bowl right now. No, I'm kidding.
Doing absolutely great. How about you, Jay?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm doing fabulous, dude. So we got a decent amount to talk about this week, so I'm gonna get right into it. Let's go players of the week first. Justin, do you want to hit us with your player of the week?
All right. Yeah, sure. I'll run it. I think this would be a week where almost the entire country, maybe the entire world, would agree that Tom Brady would be the player of the week. And obviously, I'm not disagreeing with that. But just to be a little different, I will go with the Buccaneers defense as a whole, not a certain player, just the whole defense. 2 interceptions, 3 sacks, 9 pass deflections, 9 QB hits, and 0 touchdowns allowed. Incredible game from that defense. They ran 2 high safeties all night, took away all the Chiefs' deep balls, took away the sidelines. Couldn't do a better job. So Bucs defense for me.
Let me just, I'm going to ditto that, but I'm going to go again. Tom, let me say exactly what Justin said. Tom, unbelievable game, in my opinion. Not going to go with him, though, because, again, we want to be different. We're not going to try and jump on that bandwagon. And I got to say, Bucs defense was unbelievable. Unbelievable. If I had to give it to a defensive player here, I'd probably give it to Levante David because he had, I think, 6 tackles total, and he had, like, 3 good breakups of those tackles. But I'm going to go with Rob Gronkowski. 2 touchdowns with 6 receptions, 67 yards. I mean, not a lot of yards, but those were big catches for that team in that game. So 2 touchdowns, and they surpassed now, I think, their pass record for most.
It's the most It's the most touchdowns for a QB and receiver in postseason history, I believe, is what the stat is. Yeah.
Yep. And they really said, like, they had said that before the game started, and then they get 2 more to really solidify that, to really show Travis and Mahomes that they're not messing around. And I got to say, that's a hats off there.
It's not quite time to pass the torch yet, it seems.
Oh, it's not. Jerry, throw it in here. Let's hear it.
I know
one of us has to be Brady. It better be.
Yeah. So I can't not give it to Tom. So I'm gonna give it to Tom.
It's a whole Bucs sweep this week, pretty much.
It has to be.
Tom played an unbelievable game. Credit to him. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. He just played an unbelievable game. Really showed me up, to be quite honest. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was kind of wanting the Chiefs to win this game. I thought that, Tom going to Tampa, I thought it was just kind of like a, go look at me move. Like, I'm not going to try to do anything flashy. I'm just trying to, like, get some.
He's been doing flashy.
Yeah. And I really was just waiting for Mahomes to kind of take this league by, like, his hand. Like, I was waiting for him to just kind of step up and he was going to be the new guy. Clearly, that's not what happened. And I think as Boston fans, like, Dave Portnoy's emergency press conference put it perfectly, because I was mad sad on Monday. I talked to Justin about it, and it was because it was tough to see Tom win in another uniform, especially with Gronk. I was like, that just seems like the Patriots. Like, that just, it seems like it. And AB, we had AB at one point too.
And the defense looks like our defense.
And the defense looks like a nice, strong Patriots defense. So that was tough. But let me ask you guys this. Do you guys think, were you expecting, maybe not expecting, but were you guys surprised of how that game played out?
Right away.
Deficit
right away. Because I have so much to say on it, and Justin will probably ditto me on this. But
go ahead.
I predicted the Bucs winning, right? I'm not rubbing that in, but I thought that they could.
Cap tips.
Thank you. But I did not expect it to be this much of a blowout. I'm going to call it a blowout because you're not scoring one touchdown. That's a blowout.
You didn't score a touchdown.
And I mean, when you look at the offensive stats of that Mahomes offense, it was terrible. The Todd Bowles defense there, the strategy they put together was exactly what I said, I think, in the last pod. And if I didn't, I had talked to these two about it. I said that the only way, and I posed the question, that you can beat this offense is if you double Tyreek or you double Travis, which in this case, they decided to double Tyreek and put their best linebacker on Travis Kelce, Levante David. And that system worked perfectly. And then they had their front, Jason Pierre-Paul, Ndamukong Suh, just absolutely pounding Mahomes. Mahomes had like 26 dropbacks, like 9 hurries, I think 1 sack, and 2 instances where he ran right out of bounds. I mean, this is not an offense. And another thing is, I mean, I'm not going to give the excuses to the Chiefs because you really can't be using excuses in a Super Bowl situation. But they did lose 2 of their offensive linemen. But still, the other 2 offensive linemen had been playing that season. They played in games. They knew how to play that Bucs team. They beat the Bucs team with some of those guys on that line. There's no excuse. You're a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, I'll just jump in on that while you're talking about the Chiefs O line. In that, obviously, to answer your question, Jerry, I'm definitely surprised at the way this game was. I think pretty much everybody could agree that they are. I think we all thought it would be very close. Mahomes had never lost a game by more than 1 possession going into this game. It was the first time ever he lost by more than 1 score,
and no defense,
and no touchdown pass for him at all. But it was not his fault. I think we can all agree on that as well. In that, Mahomes played freaking unbelievable, even though the numbers don't show that.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to play. So, like John had just said, they didn't have their Pro Bowl O-lineman, Eric Fisher. They are also missing others. They had some guards had to switch over to tackles. They had some young guys in there that had no experience. It was an embarrassing performance by that offensive line. Patrick Mahomes had to play faster than he ever has in his entire career. Every single snap, he's running for his life. He's dodging guys. Like I said earlier, he got sacked 3 times, got hit 9 times. I mean, it was a miserable night for him. But how many times did we see him elude like 5 or 6 guys on the Bucs defense?
Well, how many times
somehow get a pass off and go right through receivers' hands? How many times did the Chiefs receivers let it hit them literally in the face? Multiple times the ball goes through their hands and hits them in the cage. That can't happen. I mean, Mahomes did everything he possibly could. He had a hurt toe, which he might have to go have surgery on. I don't know if you've heard that. But
he was
playing on an injury. He was limping basically the whole second half, but he was just still playing unbelievable.
And
you can't possibly ask for any more from him.
He got slammed.
Yeah. He was getting slammed all night. You can't ask for him to do any more than what he did. I mean, even there's videos of the Bucs players that are mic'd up on the sideline just in awe of him all game, saying like, oh my God, he's a magician. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they're all talking on the sideline the whole time. How is he doing that? Oh, it's incredible. He's just mind-blowing. Right. Mahomes played fantastic, but Brady is the undisputed best athlete to ever play any sport ever. He is the GOAT of all GOATs. And that's that.
I'm going to say right now, Jerry, I'll hand it right over to you, the torch, and pass it. Yep. But I just want to say while we're on this note, because I'm right on the line with Justin on everything, and you probably are too, Jerry. But this game was decided for 2 reasons, in my opinion. First of all, the Bucs played the best defensive game they have ever played as a unit. They didn't have any flaws on that. I mean, how could you have any flaws on that when you barely even get them into field goal territory? These guys the kicker had to kick the closest field goal was 38 yards, I believe.
Yeah.
52 and a 49. He's not even in there. He's not even in the red zone. Now, not even on that, but the other reason that they lost this game, and I'm not going to blame the receiving core because, there's a lot of pressure. This team is probably, beating themselves up already after a couple of missed drop passes, and Mahomes is probably getting pissed. And Andy Reid, I'm sure, is up all their asses. And you can't, but there's no excuse for dropping passes. Travis Kelce, no excuse. I mean, Tyreek is so covered.
It wasn't like it was a bunch of nobodies dropping him. It was Kelce that were dropping.
It was Edwards-Helaire. It was Tyreek Hill even dropped a pass, I think. And Travis Kelce
too.
But let me say this. The primary reason why I think we all agreed, and Jerry, you're probably going to say this, and I think you are, because I think you said it already last pod, the Chiefs beat themselves. The Chiefs did exactly what we said. Because when Tyrann Mathieu gets a bad penalty, now, mind you, I'm going to say to anyone who's a Chiefs fan out there, I'm going to say this, though. 75% of those penalties were your own doing. The other 25% is because, one, Tyrann Mathieu's getting in Tom Brady's face and trying to egg him on, and they're going to call it on you every day because Tom Brady's not doing anything. Tom will get back at you, but because you've instigated it, they're going to call it on you. Another thing is that I'm sure if you look at stats, anytime – like that first one, I'll say it's the bullshit. The first interference call when he puts his hands around his chest, just like this, and then puts his hands off real quick. It was a quick, in and out, but it was in front of the ref. Bullshit call. Put the Bucs in very good position. But if you do that in front of the ref, they're going to call that 9 times out of 10. And the Chiefs play a very man-to-man coverage game where they're tugging on your jersey, they're getting in your face. But this is the Super Bowl. And if you do that every single time in front of the ref and you get called twice, they're going to call you every single fucking time. And there's no excuse for Tyrann Mathieu throwing his hands up at getting, and mind you, the ball wasn't near him, but still, you can't be even interfering with the receiver at all because they're going to call it. It's Tom freaking Brady out there. They're not going to let this Super Bowl get made fun of because of bad calls. And a lot of those calls, I'll give it to you, Jerry, in 1 second. I just got to say, lining off sides on a field goal, guys, let the extra point go in. How much of a difference is it at that point of the game? It was still early on. It's an extra point. You don't need to curl in the line to get there an extra second. You don't even get it. Come on, like the small things. You had over 100 yards by the half in penalties. That's all I'm saying. It's just you beat yourselves.
There's just a lot of things I think to break down in that game. So many. And John and Justin, you hit on a lot of them perfectly. Couple things I'll just add. I don't know how many penalties they ended up ending with, but I did see one stat that at one point they had 10 penalties that cost them 100 yards. So with that, they could have scored a touchdown with their penalties. That's one thing I have to add. The second thing was, I don't know if I saw a play in that game where Mahomes didn't look, or he looked comfortable. I don't think I saw, because it seemed like every single time that O-line let in somebody. If it wasn't the right tackle, it was the left tackle. If it wasn't the right guard, it was the left guard. Every single time the O-line was letting someone in. And it was just amazing. Like, I felt bad for Mahomes, but it was amazing to watch him. I don't know about you guys. It was amazing.
It was a great Super Bowl.
It was amazing to see someone just like sidestep, and even when he was going down, he just freaking launches it 30 yards. I don't know how he does that. That was crazy. I heard the same.
He played through so much adversity there, and I
heard the same mic'd up thing that Justin heard, where the Buccaneers were like, I don't know how he's getting those balls off. And I agree. I don't know how he was throwing some of those balls. He's literally dropping back 10 yards, going 5, like getting dragged down, and just launches it. And it was still good passes too. I was like, damn, those are really.
They were dead on the money, and he's getting dragged down.
I think the main thing that the Chiefs did wrong is I don't think they accounted enough for that strong D-line. And I didn't either. I was like, the only way that the Chiefs lose this game is if they beat themselves and they're going to have to figure a way to pass the ball. But I didn't really think that their D-line rush defense would affect their how he would pass the ball. But I should have. And so should have the Chiefs.
Well, because they had everyone out there.
Because they had everyone out there, and they were rushing him every single play. And there were no plays where he wasn't rushed. And at that point, what I wanted the Chiefs to do was to keep running. I think that was another big problem, where they just kind of ran their route and they didn't really keep going anywhere. Like for Hill,
Tyreek was doubled. Travis was heavily covered.
Well, at that point, you just need to keep running, because Mahomes is going to just keep dropping back and keep running, keep dodging. He'll stay on his feet, but you need to find an area where you can get open.
I'm sure. Well, because the way the Bucs defense was playing, the whole short game. I know we love to say that they should have kept running the ball, but the short offense, the short defense of the Buccaneers was incredible. I mean, like I said earlier, they ran 2 high safeties for over 80% of the snaps, meaning they took away any threat that Tyreek Hill was deep. And the Chiefs offense relies so much on hitting on some deep plays in order to make the short plays open up. And they couldn't get anything to open up. Yeah. They had nothing going for them.
They always had one cornerback eyeing Mahomes down low. So if they had the cornerbacks covering, and if Tyreek was doubled, and if Travis was, like the whole downfield was good, and Mahomes came out of the pocket, one of those cornerbacks started coming back, or the safety started coming back. And you had, what was it, Barrett, you had fucking Levante David, White, Sue, Jason Pierre-Paul, all Pro Bowl players running after him.
Oh, I mean, that's the other thing about the Tampa Bay team, is that Tom Brady assembled the Pro Bowl team. He's basically playing in the Pro Bowl a week late. I mean, if we're being honest, that Buccaneers roster is ridiculously talented.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as talented as it is, a lot of those guys were unsigned. Gronk, AB, Leonard Fournette didn't have jobs at the beginning of the year. So as big of names as those are, Tom Brady made it work. You can't just you have to play as a team. Like, it's important to have some chemistry, and over the season they developed it the way they needed to. And Tom Brady, before I give it back to you, Jay. Sorry for keep rambling here, but Bruce Arians had mentioned how he let Tom Brady coach a lot more this year, and based on the way that they played the Chiefs in the regular season, getting torched by Tyreek and everything, I'm almost 100% sure that Tom Brady had a lot to say in running the two high safeties all night. The way they played defensively on Tyreek Hill and stuff, Tom Brady wasn't going to let that happen twice.
I'm sure throughout the season he was talking to Bruce Arians about giving him more and more attempts to coach on defense too. But Jerry, you take it away. But
well, no, I laughed when Bruce Arians came. I don't know if you saw this, but he came up to the podium when they were asking him questions. And he's like, "I have to give it all to this team," and I'm like, "Fuck yeah, you have to give it all to this team." Like they literally did it all the work. Like
he even said, "I didn't do anything.
I didn't do anything." That's what I was laughing at.
It was Todd Bowles and of all those coaches.
So that's another thing. The only credit I would either give is to either Tom Brady himself, because I think he did have some say in it, or Todd Bowles, because I feel like at that point, like it was either one of them two being like, look, exactly as you said, Justin, if we stop that long game, they're going to have a tough time getting it back to short because they rely on those long passes to open up the short ones. So I definitely think there was a lot of talk. I guess I was overall just disappointed in the fact that the Chiefs just never seemed to bounce back at all. Like the Bucs to me was a team that like, if they got hit twice, like if they got knocked down twice, they were going to get up 3 times. Like if Tom Brady threw an interception, he was going to get back up. If any of them made a mistake, they were going to get back up. That's why I was like, this is going to be a close game. I thought that the Chiefs were going to not run over the Bucs, but they would play their game, play it well, and that the Bucs would just keep coming back. But that wasn't the case. The Bucs kind of punched them in the mouth, and the Chiefs just kind of kept taking it all night. I was very surprised.
Go
ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, I have not seen, and you guys will probably remember this. I have not seen Tom Brady run multiple same plays with just changing up the receiving core, changing up all that. I think he did it twice though, but against the Ravens, I forget which year, and I think it was in the playoffs. He ran the same play with Gronk 3 times, but he switched Gronk on each end and then just changed up the tight end.
Yeah, he didn't.
So it looked like a run, and then Gronk just comes right from the middle, down, slant, hit him. But he instead did it with a screen pass, Cameron Brate pushing off his guy, turning, catching, and running 20 yards. Cameron Brate, your tight end, doing a screen pass. And then he did another screen pass to get into the end zone with, I think, Fournette maybe. I don't remember. But that is just I don't even have a word for it. That is just how good Tom Brady is. He develops a play and he just changes it. Tom Brady threw back what the KC offense does, changing up what, receiving duo they're going to use, same play, everything. And I think overall, this is the last thing I'll say on this topic and we can move on, but you guys can say your last words too. But I think Tom Brady moving to the NFC was probably one of his smartest moves because Mahomes is the only guy that could have beat him in the AFC. And we've seen them have bouts in the AFC. They had a lot of tough competition with each other. But let me tell you right now, a conference championship, an AFC conference championship is much different than the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and I think when Mahomes stepped into that arena and started getting that 4 and out on the first 4, I think he realized that this game is not going to be a conference championship. And I think you got to realize at the end of the day that this is Tom Brady. And I got to say to Mahomes, dude, you've been to 2 Super Bowls back-to-back. You got one under your belt already in a short career. Just take this. Take this moment. Take this feeling that you got because Tom Brady has experienced this feeling 3 times already. And he got 7 rings. So if you just learn from your mistakes, watch that film day in, day out, and just wait. And then you can also put on your resume, I played Tom Brady. And I lost, and I didn't get a single touchdown. But hell, I had my best game. I think Mahomes was not.
I think he played great.
He played a great game. So Mahomes, at the end of the day, and he was frustrated. You saw how frustrated he was because he knew he was playing his heart out. But at the end of the day, to Mahomes, he will be back there again, and I think he will win again. Again, we don't know what's in the future with Tom. Maybe he'll win again. Maybe he won't. We can get into that another time.
These same 2 teams might be back there next year. Honestly,
I know, but I want Mahomes to realize that he can get back there easily. He's just got to keep working, keep fighting for it, and just realize that the torch is not being passed just yet. And he's got to realize that Tom has not given him the privilege of winning that Super Bowl yet. But Tom is willing to lose to him if he has to, but he's not going to willingly give it up.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say on it.
Yeah, I guess my last words would be just that, Jerry, I agree with what you were saying earlier, how that just nobody else on the Chiefs throughout that whole game, they were getting punched in the mouth, but it seemed like nobody wanted to step up outside of Mahomes, obviously. All these guys at a certain point, you should have the same awe and respect that the Buccaneers were having from Mahomes and realize this is our quarterback. He's doing everything. He's literally throwing his body out on the line out there every single play. Like I gotta catch this ball instead of dropping it. I gotta not take this penalty. Or if you're that fucking O-line, I gotta not be so soft and not let Jason Pierre-Paul run right around me or any like it. At a certain point, you just gotta step up and say, I just gotta be better. I gotta be harder. I gotta be better. And nobody else did that besides number 15 in red. And that was that. But and like you said, yeah, I mean, it's just you can't take that many penalties and win a Super Bowl. You never will be able to do that ever. So that's the other lesson. But I think that was more clear.
I think Justin bringing up a great point, and will be my last word too, is you could tell. Like even Mike Evans at the end of the game to Tom Brady, he got up to him. He's like, "Thank you." And I was just like, and that just encapsulated the entire Bucs team for me, which was they had so much respect and love for Tom Brady for just getting them to this point that it's almost like they played even better. Like they just played their best game all season, like because they respected that guy so much. And I agree with Justin where I thought the Chiefs were going to do the same thing. I'm like, here's a guy who literally has zero options. He could have got sacked that whole game, and I would have not blamed him for one of them because he literally was dodging play after play after play.
And he only took one, I think.
I don't think he took it. Yeah.
No, it was 3 sacks.
Three, sorry. But no, one of them was the big hit, and the other one was a tough one that he couldn't get away from. But none of them was her fault.
Well, the thing I'm trying to say is he's getting mauled, and he's still getting passes through. So for the defense, the least you can do for the defense is just get him a couple stops. If you're the offense, if you're a wide receiver, you just got to catch the ball. It's plain and simple. If you're the O-line, what I was disappointed to see in the O-line was it kind of just looked like the O-line let him through and gave up. I'll be totally honest.
They didn't pursue. They didn't pursue. Like Mahomes went right, left, backwards. If he's doing all that, if you're on the right side and he's coming back, block. You're still there. Like there's nothing else. I mean, you fucked up the first time, but you can still get it on the second time. I was just disappointed to see that it seemed like, and I'm sure they do, but it just didn't seem like they gave the same level of respect to Mahomes that they did as Brady, and I think it's purely just on an age gap. I feel like they think Mahomes hasn't had that much time in the league. He doesn't deserve that type of respect, but to be totally honest, he deserves the most. Like he got you guys through that. He was still injured, like to me. And that game reinforced to me that Tom Brady is the GOAT. Like there's no one 100%.
There's no one that's touching that guy.
I definitely think that's a good spot to end it. I think everybody can agree.
I got
just the GOAT.
He's the GOAT. I have quick small things to say though. Obviously, AB, I'm going to shout him out. Played a great game, even though his stats weren't unbelievable. Great game with a touchdown pass. And I think Andy Reid was speechless. That whole game, I never really saw him on the sideline yelling at anybody. He was speechless. He was just sitting there with his thing in his face, just at awe at what Tom Brady was doing. And that just reiterates that what we're saying is he's the GOAT. What people don't understand is, sorry, Jerry, is that if you look, Leonard Fournette got hit, honestly, one of the most out of all of the receivers besides Gronk. Tom Brady hits his running backs low every time for check down passes, and no one covered him. No one reads this.
Playoff motherfucking Lenny. My goodness, this guy's just different.
I know. But it's just that Tom Brady, the GOAT, stamp it, seal it, deliver it. That's it.
I just never seen a player at that age continue to play. And it's almost
never will either. You'll never see it again.
Yeah, and I never will. And it's like John said, it just seems like he's a different person in the Super Bowl. Like it's just a different guy. Like in the regular, I think even in an AFC championship game, it's a different person than the Super Bowl. It's almost like he just can't lose. Like until that clock hits 0, he hasn't lost the game yet.
And you know what?
But I think the fact that he has lost makes that even more true because he knows 100%. He has lost and he's taken it in the mouth and he's come back from it. And that's so important. And the other thing is that it's hard to go back to back. If there's anything to say about the Chiefs, the Patriots, Tom Brady's never gone back to back. He's won 7 rings, but none of them back to back.
It's really hard in NFL to go back to back.
It's so hard. And the Chiefs might be back there next year. And then that'll be one in the, I mean, Tom Brady has won every other for the past, 8 years
He's been there
now.
3 times though in a row, but he's never got the back-to-back.
He's never got back-to-back, and it's really tough to do.
It's tough to do.
And you know what? I think honestly, last thing, but Tom Brady, he seemed to be very humble in what people may argue, but I think he was pretty humble in Boston. And I enjoy seeing him kind of be the little kid that he's got inside. He's got like, that little kid spirit inside of him where he's just bragging at people. He's getting in Tyrann Mathieu' face, probably telling him, I got 6 rings. What the fuck do you got? And you know what? Honestly, credits to Tom Brady, because don't let Tyrann Mathieu start talking back to you. And then Tyrann Mathieu, I'm not even going to get into that. That's kind of why my what the fuck moment, but I can get right into it if you want.
Yeah,
go ahead, because
fuck?
there was a whole thing that he might have said something that was too far. And then
we can just get right into it, and then we can go on to the next thing. But Tyrann Mathieu, first of all, my what the fuck moment has to do with you. You're a great player, and I'm talking directly to him here. You're a great player. I respect your defensive game. You have unbelievable career stats, Pro Bowler, everything. And I'm glad that you made the Super Bowl. But first of all, I understand that you're going to bitch and complain in the call, but at the end of the day, you got to wipe it off your shoulder because you're in the fucking Super Bowl. Shit calls are going to be made. It's human error. Shit's going to happen. You got to play through adversity.
Stop holding.
Yeah, and you got to play through adversity and stop holding. And now in the next play, when Tom is getting off the field after he just scored a touchdown, or he kicked I don't even know what happened. I forget, but don't go up into his face and put your finger in his face and say something. And I'm sure he said, you're a little piece of shit, and you're not winning the Super Bowl and whatever. And he's probably being a sore loser because that's what you saw. The Chiefs started getting pushy and shovey later on when they realized they were probably going to lose. Yeah. And my thing to Tyrann Mathieu is, what do you have to say to the greatest player of all time that could possibly upset him now that he's going to, at that point of the game, he was getting his 7th ring. I think we all agreed. It was like the third quarter. We knew it was over. Yeah, it was over. There's nothing you have to say to him that's going to make him cry himself to sleep. And what pissed me off even more is when he goes home and he goes, we're in the interview. I've always respected Tom Brady. He's been one of my heroes, but that and that Super Bowl, that really, put a bad image on him for me. What, dude? Just because he's your hero doesn't mean Tom Brady gives a shit about who you are. I'm not going to go up to Aaron Rodgers and say, you're my hero, and expect Aaron Rodgers to say, oh, thanks, kid, I love you too. Like, he'll just say, who the fuck are you? Like, you're playing, you're also playing against him. You're not supposed to be buddy in the fucking Super Bowl.
I was just confused because I was like, all right, you are losing by so much. Your team has not scored a touchdown yet. So until you score a touchdown, then you can talk. The second thing was, Chiefs didn't do it, and like I said earlier, they didn't do anything that would make me seem like they even were like trying to get back in that game. Like it was just complete either shit talking or pushing back, but there was no actual plays being made.
They just started playing dirty to try and finish that.
Literally. I was just like, at this point, like all you can do is play your game. Like Tom is playing an unbelievable game. Instead of shit talking him, figure out a way to stop him, and then maybe you might have some ground to stand on. But they literally didn't score a touchdown yet. I think it was a pretty significant deficit by that point, and they didn't have anywhere to go. And I was just like, why are you still talking? And then the tweet at the end of the game where he was like, oh, Tom called me something I'm not gonna repeat. And then he found out Tom was mic'd up, and he's like, oh, I better take the tweet down before someone finds out that I didn't actually say it.
Let me say on that.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Let me say on that, because Jared, you can take it away. Just I want to say, like, the way he put it, and now I'm not going to get political. I'm not getting anywhere down this road, and I want people to know that. But the way he said it for me, and the way I think a lot of people took it, and I've read a lot of articles, is that what Tom Brady said was probably a very, very nasty word, or a series of words that probably shouldn't have been spoken, or something that must have been something to hear. Now, I don't know what it could have been. It just reminds me of the Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett situation where they said afterwards, oh, he said this to me, but neither one of them was mic'd up. Yeah. And then, but it looks like you're guilty. I mean, you delete your tweet right after they say, well, he's mic'd up. We can go back and check. So, and then he deletes his tweet.
To explain to Justin, Tyrann Mathieu tweet. I'm sure you heard about that.
I know about the tweet. I just didn't know Tom was mic'd up, and then he took it down.
So Tyrann Mathieu tweeted. He goes, Tom's calling me something that I'm not going to repeat. Yeah. So everyone just assumed that it was what we all think it was. And then Tom, he found out Tom was mic'd. Like Tom Brady, like he was mic'd up the entire game. You could hear everything he was saying. And then he just took the tweet down. He didn't say anything. He just took it
because he knew he was wrong.
And
because he knew there was nothing
I can't imagine Tom saying that anyway.
But even if so here's the thing. To me, in that point, like you could even make a case for yourself. Like he's mic'd up, but it's not like he was playing Mary the entire game. Even if he said something, you can at least back the tweet up. But if you take the tweet down, there's nothing for you that you lose all credibility there.
He should have. I'll say right now, he first of all shouldn't have never said the tweet. But you're right, Jerry. You're absolutely right. Because once you take down a tweet, once you take back any words you've said, you've automatically admitted to guilt.
Yeah,
to guilt. You've automatically admitted that you're wrong.
Even so, as always, Tom did the right thing no matter what it was. He texted him afterwards an apology, saying that he respects himself. He respects his game so much. One of the best defenders in the league, and he is. So again, Tom just.
And you know what?
Every single thing Tom does on and off the field, he's just goated.
And I don't care if Tyrann Mathieu at the end of the day is still salty. I mean, I get it. You lost. But at the end of the day, you have to realize, and hopefully later when he has a clear head, he'll realize that that is what a great player does, and that is what a respectful player does. Now, Tom Brady has his moments when he's a child. Everyone has their bad, shitty moments. But at the end of the day, the guy who is most respected on the field is the guy who's going to be the bigger guy. And when you win the game, you go over to one of your pals who's on the other team, and you sit next to him, and you sit there while he's crying on the field. I mean, you see that in hockey all the time. You see that in a couple other sports. You see those. I love those moments. When you got two guys who are, good friends. And Brady immediately after the game went to Mahomes. And there's not a lot said there, but we've heard those.
He said, keep in touch.
He said, keep in touch. And we've heard those about the last AFC conference game they had where they went to he went to the locker room and was talking to Mahomes about his game. That is what Tom is. And Mahomes is going to remember those moments. And that's all I got to say about it.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say, and then we'll go into Deshaun Watson real quick, and then we'll get into NBA. Two things. One, if you're Tyrann Mathieu, I would just be grateful that game wasn't worse than it was. And here's what
Could have been much worse.
That could have been a complete.
It was just about as bad as it possibly could have been.
I agree, but that could have been a blowout. Like if
it was a blowout.
Well,
it was a blowout in every single dimension of the word.
It's 3 field goals that were